Welcome to Mystara, after a brief absence, for a look at a creature from the Savage Coast. A very weird creature. That's a bit contradictory. The creature, not the statement. And hard to work into a campaign while keeping a straight face. Okay, this one was tough. It would have been so much easier if this was a joke creature, but it's not. It was written entirely straight, with no traces of humor. Introducing the Omm-wa, a flame-throwing sentient manatee with no self-preservation instincts that writes in modern art, just like the meme says. I'm Mr. Welch, and oh, the huge manatee. The Omm-was only appeared in the Savage Coast Monster Compendium, where they're depicted as manatees with webbed hands. That's it. They're technically humanoids, because where else are you going to classify them? The males have tusks similar to walruses, but much smaller. They tend to wear jewelry that has special meaning to them, and more on that later. They would be gray in color if they didn't live in the Savage Coast, but because of their particular legacy, they're bright red. Not much to say about their physical appearance. They aren't even anthropomorphic like the rest of Mystara's legion of furries. It's a manatee with thumbs. Omm-was are a matriarchal society, and females hold every position of power. The shaman of the Omm-was are all female, and the fighters are all males. The lowest-ranking shaman commands the highest-ranking fighter. The male Omm-wa view it as their sacred duty to protect the females, and are formidable opponents, though they have no natural attacks and use weapons like spears and tridents instead. Despite being large blubbery creatures with a strange allure for sailors, Omm-was are surprisingly fast. They swim as fast as sharks, but on land they roll around like manatees. They don't have feet, they weigh over half a ton, and they have no business being out of water. If you see one on land, it's been stranded there, so please be lawful good and roll it back into the water. Or wait 6 seconds and watch it spontaneously explode. 1 out of every 5 of the males are fighters and cap out around level 6. The females, as shaman, have a much higher level cap. I mention they explode because their legacy from the Red Curse is usually burn. This lets them either breathe fire or cast fire from their hands. The damage is 1d4 plus 1 point per hit die, so not a lot. The range is 1 foot per hit die, and the average Omm-wa has 3 hit dice, so you're looking at 1d4 plus 3 damage with a range of 3 feet. Burn ignites any flammable material it touches, which might be great, except it's a manatee. They live in swamps. Not a lot of things burn in a swamp. I should know, I live in the Bayou City. You don't find a lot of bayous in a desert. The downside to the burn legacy is largely negated by the aquatic nature of the Omm-wa, being elevated body heat, requiring twice as much water and random things catching on fire near you. This does mean that Omm-was outside of water die within a few rounds from their legacy, but as long as they're in the water, there's not much of a downside. Omm-wa territory is typically the southern half of the Kingdom of Ator, which is Gorosh or Gatorman territory. This opens up a whole host of continuity problems. I should make a video on all the continuity issues I found in Mystara. But you don't want to sit around and watch a 3-hour video of nothing but nitpicks and suggested fixes. First, the Gorosh entry explicitly says they don't live in a region affected by the Red Curse. The map of the Red Curse's reach shows that the curse is indeed covering half of Ator, so that's a direct contradiction there. But worse, the map states that Ator is in Region 2 of the curse, and the Burn Legacy doesn't manifest in Region 2. It only appears in Region 1, the easternmost areas of the Savage Baronies, on the opposite side of the map. But burn is a significant component of Omm-wa abilities, so we can't change it or anything else, or we change the nature of the creature. None of the other Region 2 abilities make sense. Crimson Fire comes close, but it's just dancing lights with a Cinnabril twist. Do you want to know why the Omm-wa video has taken so long? Well, first, okay, I was just absolutely disgusted at Wizards of the Coast for starters, but that's not Mystara related. Okay, it is, because I had waited 6 long years for a promise to be kept about the guild that never appeared. If you're going to lie to me, at least tell me I'm pretty. But this channel makes it a point of correcting the continuity issues as I come across them, and that's over 100 to this point. But the Omm-wa are nothing but continuity problems. You can't move them to a new region. They've got to be in a swamp because of what they are. You're not going to find manatees in Vegas. The swamps available are in the Orc's Head Peninsula, but that's well outside the reach of the curse. The swamps of Beg, north of Robran, might be an option, but that removes the Gorosh and Arania from the history of the Omm-wa. Still, that fixes the issue about the legacy. You've also got multiple swamps in Gargonia, and that is Region 1. That gets the cursed area right, but it moves all their traditional neighbors out of the story. It gives them access to the saltwater their entry says they're comfortable with. Let's not even talk about the fact that the Red Steel DM's guide directly contradicts the Red Steel Player's guide on the spread of the curse. I know TSR was practically dead in 1997, the year that this book was finished, and that playtesting was not something they did in the final days. But this one slipped through all the cracks. Still, I can't complain about a free book released to the players as an act of love for the setting. In a perfect world, this book would have gotten all the attention it needed. Just be glad for what we got. Back to the Omm-wa full-time then. The society, as stated, is completely matriarchal. A shaman leads every sea hold without exception. The Omm-wa are divided by gender, with the females being nurturing and motherly, and the males being protective and loyal. The males are devoted to the females and will fight to the death to protect them. They will charge any danger no matter the odds and will gladly sacrifice themselves. This includes perceived threats, and there have been incidents where the males have attacked creatures that meant no harm to them. These incidents have led to numerous warriors getting killed needlessly, as the dragon they were trying to slay was sunning itself and minding its own business. The shaman have attempted to break the males of this habit, but it seems ingrained, leading to a shortage of warriors. Their greatest foe is the Gatormen, who fight the Omm-wa for control of the swamps on site. The fact that the Gatormen consider Omm-wa to be a delicacy and make armor out of their hide makes the conflict personal. Fortunately for the Omm-wa, they are faster in the water than the Gatormen and would rather flee than fight. Still, if they have to defend themselves, they will fight ferociously. Gatormen are the one enemy to which Omm-wa show no mercy, as the swamps of Ator aren't big enough for both of them. Unfortunately, it's a fight they're losing. Because all Omm-was are afflicted with the Red Curse, they require Cinnabril to avoid becoming afflicted. Due to the impossible nature of operating a mine in a swamp, most Omm-was have to deal with their legacy without it. The water does mitigate the worst of the burn legacy's affliction, but not all of it. They have to remain in the water to stay cool, and they are uncomfortably warm to the touch. Omm-was that have to deal with their neighbors to trade will be provided with what Cinnabril their people can acquire, so they don't have the stigma of being afflicted. Also, randomly setting people on fire during a trade meeting can impose a serious penalty to your barter check. Omm-was are known for their aquacultural abilities, something they have honed better than anyone else except for possibly the races of Aquarendi. They grow many rare plants and large quantities of the more common crops. They use these to trade with less hostile neighbors like Cayman, Aranea, and Wallara. You know you've messed up when the Aranea appear higher on the list of viable trade partners than you do. Omm-wa trade for metal, crafted goods they can't make for themselves, and Cinnabril in small amounts. They aren't exactly friendly with their neighbors, as their interactions are more like shopping trips than diplomatic visits. But when you spend all your life in a bayou, it's hard to get neighbors to stop in for a visit. The Omm-was prefer to avoid trading for goods they can make themselves, and they have gotten good at using their burn powers to forge weapons and similar. The Omm-was gather metal nodules that accrue on the bottom of Trident Bay and break them down into components. From there, they can make weapons, jewelry, and a small number of Cinnabril amulets. It's not much, but it's a source of pride for them. The Omm-wa language isn't that remarkable. It's slow and easy to understand underwater. It's hard for other creatures to comprehend, and learning it is nearly impossible because it's meant to be spoken underwater. They can understand common and speak it, though quite slowly. But they are most famous for their written form of their language. They construct their messages by building sculptures that convey meaning to anyone who looks at it. If you're not a flame-throwing manatee, it's a pile of rocks and precious metals. But if you are an Omm-wa, the sculpture conveys an entire story with just a glance. Every placement of the rocks and every curve of the metal means something different. Moving a stone or a bit of metal will change the entire meaning, so they aren't portable. As you can expect, they don't have a written language, but they do have a simpler version for outsiders, though it's still difficult to decipher if you don't know what you're looking for. Omm-was will make jewelry with beads, knots, and metals that convey an introduction to its creator. The numerous necklaces and chains the Omm-wa all wear have a meaning, though if you're not familiar with their form of communication, it's just pretty jewelry. If you understand how they write, you can appreciate what they tell you. The Omm-was make it a common practice to sell jewelry with an obscene or insulting slogan to clueless merchants they don't like. Omm-was live in family units, usually numbering around 6. The families will then merge to form an aqua farm with others of their kind, creating a small community of about 2 dozen. Since only 20% of the creatures take up an adventuring career, it means their homes generally have only a handful of protectors. They will abandon a home rather than fight, though again males will try to hold off attackers till the death. On rare occasions, twins will be born, which is a significant event for the Omm-was. As both twins are destined for greatness, the twins will always be mixed sex, the female destined to be a shaman and the male a warrior. Both twins can reach higher class levels than normal and are trained in their classes from an early age. Omm-was are obscure. They don't appear in any other D&D sourcebook, much like the rest of the menagerie you found in the Savage Coast Guide. They are one of the few good-aligned monsters found in that book, though they're more plot devices and background than an actual threat. Seriously, if you get killed by a manatee, even a fire-breathing sentient one, you need to reflect back on your life's poor decisions. They are limited to a specific region, they can't travel, and a single attack with a trident isn't exactly making the Gatormen quake in their Omm-wa skin boots. They serve more as the helpless town needing the assistance of the traveling warriors, just like in more than a few Kurosawa flicks. That's the Omm-wa. That's the race that took me 2 weeks to write a video that I wasn't ashamed of. Finally. It's a unique race, I will give them that. What if manatees were sentient, had thumbs, and could shoot fire? I'm not sure what drugs their creator was on at the time, but they must have been good ones. Either that or they fell asleep watching a Jacques Cousteau documentary followed by a war movie. Hopefully you can find a use for them. Next time is the dinosaurs of Mystara, something you will probably find a lot more use for. Until then, what sailor could say no to that?